And welcome to our latest presentation in the DITA Knowledge series. I'll begin by effecting introductions first. So I'll be presenting along with Helen Centinese. My name's Les Burnham. I'm CEO of Stilo and the founding director of Stilo International. And Helen is, as I said, our conversion services manager. Originally, actually, was a graduate in English, and she was a technical editor with Stilo, becoming conversion services manager. And over recent years, she's collected thousands of documents to DITA for a range of customers, as you can see on the screen being displayed now. At the end of today's presentation, we'll be joined by Patrick Baker. Pat's our VP of Development and Services, originally a graduate in mathematics and took an MSc at McGill in Canada, and leads an extremely talented team of developers for Ottawa office, and with core product developments centering around Omnimark, which is a content processing language and execution platform for XML and HTML content processing. More latterly, Migrate as well, where we've been developing Migrate for the last 4 or 5 years, and that's what we'll be talking about later today. So hopefully you'll get some, hopefully some interesting facts from today's session, and take away with you. It's going to last approximately 45 minutes. And before we start, I just need to cover the usual housekeeping issues, that all attendees will be muted for the duration of the webinar. Questions can be submitted using the chat facility in the meeting window, and if you could direct that to Helen Owens, our marketing manager, who's helping with logistics and organization in the background today, and we'll look to address all the questions in the Q&A session at the end. And we'll also at the end be running a poll to take feedback on the webinar. And just to let you know that today's webinar has been recorded, and we'll be looking to send a link in the next day or two to all attendees. The discussion for today. So, title: Selecting the right approach when converting legacy content to DITA. Well, actually, it implies there's a wrong approach. Well, there isn't. There are just different approaches to consider, and it's not necessarily the case that anything is right or anything's wrong. Some things are just more appropriate in particular circumstances, and I just want to really sort of be able to review those different approaches today, and give some indications as to sort of perhaps when you should or perhaps use them, and where some perhaps benefit over and above others. But before deciding directions or any approaches to take, you should have a few things sort of really ticked off first. You should have by now decided upon your content strategy. We should be assuming a public or publishing process are in place. Authors have been trained and have a good understanding of DITA. You know how much legacy content you want to convert and when you want to convert it. You have a good appreciation of the consistency and quality of your legacy content. You've probably done some sort of audit or content analysis by now. And now you want to decide on the best approach to take. Well, a word of warning first, that conversion DITA isn't straightforward, and no matter what approach you take, to take, I think, the following things into account. Any conversion project typically comprises 3 stages, and that's basically preparing your content for conversion, actually undertaking the conversion itself, and then cleaning up the content. Depending upon the conversion technology used, there can be, this can really make the difference between having a successful or an unsuccessful conversion project on your hands. Let's conversion technology is 80% effective. If you got something that's 95% effective, then you've got a 4-fold increase in your cleanup manual effort. So it's really important to be able to adopt and implement some good levels of automation. And finally, as well, a major second point I'd like to emphasize: every step of the way, subject matter experts, that is, authors, writers, typically themselves, have to be involved in this whole process. Initially, will be getting involved in conversion rule specification, and that can become pretty complex. At the moment, with DITA 1.2, there's up to 535 DITA elements. If you wanted to use them all, you likely wouldn't, of course, but that's the scale of things that you're trying to map content to. Of course, your content doesn't really represent ever a straight one-to-one mapping. There are lots of decisions to be made in automating the conversion process. And so you are involved every step of the way. You will be involved in the pre-prep. You will be involved in the cleanup, and the things you need to bear in mind when deciding upon the approach best for you. So, which way to go? There are really sort of three approaches we want to be able to compare today. One is in-house, one is outsource, and one is using the Migrate cloud service, which I believe represents a completely different approach to in-house and outsourcing services. And look at in-house. Typically, that's characterized by really the following points. You'll generally have minimal budget. You have some, what you say, spare resources, or you've got some time to spare in the documentation team. You can actually end up writing your own scripts or using some of the desktop tools that are out there to help with conversions. Your own cleanup and QA. You might get involved in cutting and pasting. Typically, you're converting on an ad hoc basis. You typically don't have pressing deadlines. It is generally low volume. It can serve you very well. It's a good learning exercise. It helps you better understand your content. You can sort out a lot of issues by just rolling your sleeves up and using some tools in this way. The biggest problem with this is that it doesn't scale well when you're really up against it with business deadlines. So then outsourcing. It's associated with high volume. You need perhaps you have deadlines. Typically, it's labor intensive. You perhaps have a lot of cleanup that needs to be done with your content, which you recognize needs to be done, and that's going to take time and it's going to take cost. Typically, you wouldn't have internal resources available. It's quite likely that your internal resources don't want to be doing this work as well, and you would have provided some budget for it. And so you get on the outsourcing content, and the typical workflow would be that your project manager, your partner undertakes the project management of the conversion project. You agree the conversion spec with your partner. Your partner's conversion scripts. Maybe offshore sources are used. You take the pre-conversion prep. You batch documents for conversion. You actually have a content freeze typically whilst you hand it off to your conversion partner to undertake conversion. The partner undertakes post-conversion cleanup, and so do you, I add. The partner evaluates the results, and so do you. And then you notify the partner of the required changes. And then repeat this whole process. And this is what happens in outsourcing projects, and this can be a source of great frustration. I think sort of the technical authors in particular who've got other jobs to be doing rather than purely dedicating themselves to the task of conversion. So it's sort of a common scenario, and we actually look at the conversion challenge as sort of to be addressed in two ways. That if we can improve the levels of automation involved, and if we place SMEs in control, then the conversion process becomes easier. And that's actually why we actually migrate our cloud conversion service in the first place, to address these problems and these issues, and that's what we'll be talking about today. So is the Migrate cloud service any different? Let me just explain what it does first, and then we'll draw some conclusions later. But basically, we're uploading content in various formats, so FrameMaker, InDesign, Word, RubberHelp, XML, SGML, and we convert it to the specified DITA. Typically, we can go to various flavors of XML. In this case, today we're going to be talking about converting from FrameMaker to DITA. So, if you're using Migrate, you'd be uploading a FrameMaker document to a dedicated portal. It will be prefigured with conversion rules set up for you. You may have different conversion pipelines for different document groups. We'd be converting the content to 1.1, 1.2, or specializations. And you'd be currently be uploading your FrameMaker documents in MIF format, and you can do that with single or multiple files. So it gets uploaded to the portal, it's analyzed, and we create ourselves an intermediate XML hub format, and we annotate the characteristics of the documents that have been loaded. So we typically use those annotations then to map across to the target DITA. Obviously, we would be mapping on stars. That's what's commonly used. But we do a lot of work looking at patterns and context and inferring things from the content. We make sense of the the content that we're converting and recognize patterns that we can convert and therefore apply rules where you might not think they would normally apply. We can handle complex tables. We'll show you this. We can handle related links. We have graphics, equations, variables, conditional text, a whole host of things we do. So we do this analysis in the first place. We produce a warning report, which actually might highlight some pre-conversion that might need to be done, or just suggest that you take a look at one or two aspects of the documents. And so at this point, indicate of conversion credits that will be required to convert a document. We operate the page-use system where you buy conversion credit, which costs essentially one conversion credit processes 1,000 characters. In FrameMaker, that's generally a page of content. And if you're happy with that, then we convert the content. So it's happening in real time. This isn't going or into some other workflow or whatever. This is happening in real time, and we schema-generated DITA. So we'll always produce valid DITA. So you can convert your content on demand 24/7. And then, hopefully, in the majority of cases, your work goes through. In some cases, of course, it won't. There are always exceptions. Help SMEs or authors, writers, to guide the exceptions through the process using a rules editor. So authors can easily build complex rules. You can read the content as many times as necessary, and it doesn't cost you any more. And you reconvert it until you have the quality of the content, the quality of the DITA that you're actually looking for or require. You can clone the rules that you've built. You can modify the rule sets and use it for different document families if needs be. And so this is the way in which you can quickly get content through the system. You can have as many people accessing, as many people in the documentation team accessing this portal as necessary. And in the background, if you do have any further problems, additional problems or issues with particular content, there's always Stilo support to fall back on. We can dip into your portal and help you out if necessary. So after successful conversion, you would download. You'll get high quality content because of the processes that you've just been through. We'll use valid DITA every time. We can produce DITA topics or specialized topics. We can produce DITA maps or book maps. We can take FrameMaker drawings and convert it to SVG automatically. We can take equations and convert it to MathML. So that's really very quickly an overview of the system that I want to show today. And I'm going to rush through these slides so that we can have time to spare at the end. So at this point, I'll pass over control to Helen, I'll make presenter, hopefully. And if I can find her in the list.
Hi, everybody. So you should now be seeing my desktop. You should be seeing the page in Migrate that you would see when you first log in to your Migrate portal. And it shows a list of documents that you have uploaded to your portal. Uploading is pretty straightforward. You click the upload button, you browse your file system. The document, I'm choosing just a single FrameMaker file with a MIF extension for these purposes. I can check here which document type. So in my portal, I can upload FrameMaker or FrameMaker book or row help or a bunch of different things. I'm just going to choose FrameMaker file, although because it's a MIF extension, Migrate could figure that out by itself. I'm going to hit upload. It's gone blank, so I know it's uploaded. But what it's uploading, Mike is also analyzing the document, finding out some basic information about it. How many characters, how many graphics, how many equations, that sort of thing. As well, what's uploading, it is creating from our input an intermediate XML file. We preserve in that file things like style names, conditions, markers, things that we use to set rules on to guide our conversion. You can see it's finished being analyzed. We've got this number 20 here in red, credits. That's telling us that when we decide to convert this, it will cost us 20 of our prepaid credits, which we have listed over here. So if we find out what we've learned from the analysis, we click on file name and we look at the report here, so we can see that we counted 20,000 characters. That's where our credits have come from. Also got a formula and an image, frame image. For clients who request those outputs, those would count as credits as well. These are things that are just informational, how many paragraphs, how many tables, and so on. Now, if we had any warnings about what we found out in the analysis, it would be right here in our analysis report. We have no messages. That is good. Typically, the messages are things like, watch out for your SVGs. They might have orders that aren't right or things like that. But it's good to check what the warnings might be, because if we do decide we'd rather fix something in the input, is the time to do it before we pay our credits. But I think we're okay to go ahead with this, so we can now go back here. We can say, yes, okay, we can now go ahead and we're going to accept the credits on that. And then see our 20 has turned black and they've been deducted over here. From this point on out, I can give this document rules. I can convert it, download the output. I can look at the output and say, no, I want to change something. I can go back and change it, reconvert, re-download as soon as I need. All I pay is that 20 credits. So now they're here, I can give it some rules. I have a group of rule sets to select from. I can give target. So I'm going to go to DITA 1.2 with a book map. And I'm going to go ahead, and because I have some rules in place already, I'm going to hit convert. And Migrate's going to take the input in the form of the intermediate XML file, the rules, and the DITA 1.2 schema, and a little bit of configuration. It's going to produce some output. While doing that, I'm going to take a quick look at the input so we can see the sort of thing we're dealing with. This document is just put together to show some of the sorts of things we encounter when we're doing these conversions. The kinds of things, and some things we see over and over again. This is just a straightforward FrameMaker document. It has a title, an author. It's got things here that are going to go to the front matter of the book map. So we have a proprietary notice that will go into notices. Tables we see a lot of. I've just put this here just to illustrate that we get some quite complicated table layouts. It's something that people worry about converting to DITA because it's difficult. So that there, we have this table here. We'll see some other tables later on as well. We have a preface. We have, as you can see, lists, bullet lists, different levels of headings. Here's another table. That one's just simple. Here, equation. We've got some lists, and here are FrameMaker drawing. We've got some conditional text that we've put in as well. We've also got cross-references here that refer to page numbers, which happens all the time, and we would like to be able to get rid of the page numbers because they're not really meaningful in DITA. Here we have lists, so this is a numbered list. In some numbered lists, we have, which are going to go to, in this case, options, or choices, and in this case sub-steps. They have the same style name, so we need to be able to differentiate between those. Use something else besides style to differentiate that. We have some styling that we have to carry over. These to become a menu cascade with UI controls inside. And once again, we've got some conditional text, and these are related topics. And we often see this, people have a section of related topics that come at the end of a topic that tend to be published if they're doing online help. They leave it out if they're publishing to PDF. So that these are, and we decide what to do with those, whether they're going to become rigid links or whether they're going to go into a rel table. One of the other things that we will find if we go down a little further, some net lists. These are going to be steps, sub-steps, and then a list nested inside the sub-steps. And Migrate can tell based on context whether something needs to be a step or a sub-step or just a list item. And here we have another table. In this case, we actually want to get rid of the table markup and change this from a table to a definition list. Some of the issues that we're looking at in this particular piece of content. Let's go back up here, and we can see that we've converted already, so let's download. Okay, so this is our output. So our output was one FrameMaker file. As you can see, we have out from that a number of DITA files. So each topic has been broken out into its own file, with its own file name. Now we've configured this. This is something that you can choose whether to do or not, or how deeply you want to go with your bursting. We did a val file because we've some conditional text. So we, by default, produce a DITA val file. We have a bookmap file. We've got the XML for the equation. Quickly pop that open so you can see it. The equation. And we have SVG. We've got the graphic as well. So all of those things out of that one file. So we'll look at what the output looks like. We open XMetal, we can get a good look at it. Here we go. As you can see, we've got a nicely nested map, front matter, and a preface, and our proprietary notice in here. This is all in here. Let's see what happened to our author. Let's just have a look at this in Excel. XML view, and you can see our author has been placed in there in the book meta of the book map. Go to the map editor and we'll look at these topics. So let's look at some of the things that we found in the input. they look like in the output. So proprietary notice, and there's that table, which as you can see with all those differing spans, all correctly out without us doing anything in particular to it. That happens automatically. What we've done is we've taken the links, we've removed the page numbers, and we actually put them into a related links section here. So we'll just put the tags on to see that. So that's what we've done there. We'll have a quick look at the related links here as well. Again, page numbers. And just quickly, going into how we did it, you can see that we've got our steps with our step choices here and our sub-steps here. So they've been differentiated, no problem. We've got our inline styling, we've got our menu cascades. We'll see that better on the next one. So we've got our menu cascade coming out correctly. We'll pop tags on view for that. And let's have a quick look at that table at the end. So I wanted to change from a table to a definition list. So we've done it automatically. So if we do nothing to them, we'll come out right, even if they're quite complicated. But in the case where we have tables that have been put in for presentation, really don't belong in the output, we can split those and annotate what's inside them and convert it to a different structure. So that's what we've got in our output this time around. It's pretty good, and you know, I think that we could be fairly happy with this output. We've got tasks where we should have tasks and concepts where we should have concepts. You can see that this is a concept. I think we will, here we'll see that we have a task. Now, different ways we can tell Migrate what topic type it is. There's also ways that Migrate can figure it out from context. But you know, one of the things that we did here is we had put these links into related links section. We do that because it's the best practice to take these links out of the body of the text and to put them at the end of the topic. But for people, a relationship table in the book map is the better way to go. So we get this output and we decide, you know, this is good, but I really would rather see those things in a rel table. I don't have to package this all up and send it back to be converted. What I can do at this point is I'm going to say, I want to go in and take a look at my rules and see what I can modify to chat in the output. So I'm going to open up my rules editor now. So what Migrate is doing here is taking our XML file and the rules that we have in place, and it's generating a view of the input. It's going to give us a view of the rules that we've got and what's applied and what hasn't. So you can here we've got a representation of the input with just enough formatting that we can tell the different parts of the document. So if we go down to section, chapter 4, here we are. So these related topics. And I'm going to select that. I'm going to see what we've done with it. And we have made it into a related link. So Rule 16, the one that did that, I'm going to go in here. going to actually turn that one off. And I'm going to turn on a rule that I have in place. I'm going to turn on this rule here, which is to make this paragraph a relationship table entry. So now I've changed those rules, and I'm going to save them. Go back here, and I'm going to convert again. So this will take a minute or so. While it's doing that, just quickly I'll show you how we've organized the desktop here. I have got these files here in a basket called Demo. I might have dozens, even hundreds of documents uploaded. I don't necessarily need to see them all at once, so I have the ability to put them in baskets. If I were to view all the documents that I have here, this is what you'd see. Sometimes I get a lot on my portal, and I really don't need to see them all. So I need to see the ones I'm interested in right now. So if I go to my baskets page, if I want to make another basket, just create a new basket. Give it a name I like. I can go ahead and organize my documents into these baskets. This is converted, so let's download. Now, I'm just going to open this with Excel. Once again, I'm going to switch to the XML view. At our relationship table. So here's our rel table, and as you can see, these links that were related links at one point are now appearing here in the relationship table. So it's as simple as that, really. The links no longer appear here. We have left the text of the link still in the text of the document. We've removed the page numbers. So that's how easy it is and how fast it is to make these pretty significant structural changes in your version without having to go through it all and change it manually in the output, without having to package it up and send it back to an outsourcer and say, please, can you do it differently? You can do it in a matter of minutes, your own time, whenever you're ready. And you change your mind again, it's quick and easy to go back and change it back. There's an awful lot more that I could show you, but I don't really have time to show you a lot more this time. So at this point, I think that I shall pass it back over to Lev.
Okay, thanks, Helen.
Let's continue.
just try to share my desktop with everyone again now. Okay, thanks very much for that. So let's pick up from where Helen left off. Thanks again, Helen. I think it's important to really now sort of take into account what our customers tell us. And choose to take the Migrate service, then they say essentially they consider all sorts of things, but ultimately they tend to say, you know, this makes life easier for the SME, makes life easier for us. We can decide what documents we want to convert on demand, and we get immediate results. Importantly, people can schedule conversion jobs around personal production workloads. This is really important because if batching work up to send it to an outsourcer, then really you're beholden to them, their schedules, rather than your own production schedules necessarily. And so having the freedom to be able to do things 24/7 in your own time is really important. And then, of course, you can avoid the churn that we've talked about on a few occasions now, going back and forth with converting partners, and that's really, really frustrating. So when you've got the rules that are available to you, the point is that you don't have to get everything right first time. You can actually sort of, you know, you can tweak things yourself. You don't have to be a developer to be able to do that. And so that perhaps gives you a bit more confidence that you can sort of press on with your work and then get the quality of data you want in your own good time. Interesting that some of our customers as well said that by using Migrate and using the rules editor, it's helped the documentation team and writers improve their knowledge of DITA as they essentially roll their sleeves up and get on with the conversions. Ultimately, the big message is really that it's placing users in control. Now, we'll share some metrics with you in 2 or 3 slides. The Migrate service was actually put through and piloted by the Central ID Tools team, and they recommended it for use at IBM Sterling Commerce when they acquired Sterling Commerce 2 or 3 years ago. And this slide here shows metrics which IBM Sterling Commerce actually collected in the converting content. We did a joint presentation with them at CMS to North America, and so we can show this slide, another slide, quite happily. But what the slide is showing is comparing results by conversion method. So Sterling Commerce had already been using an outsourced supplier, outsourcing partner before we arrived on the scene. They'd also been converting in-house as well, using scripts, and then we came really, I suppose, you know, later, and they were collecting metrics of all of the different methods. Here, what we're showing is that in the case of outsourcing, then they were still taking 24 hours per book on average in pre-prep work. They were taking 32 hours to convert content, and this would be going back and forth, and they still had cleanup to do at the end. So these are their metrics. So you're seeing here, what's that, 72 hours per book, typically, when they have the FrameMaker books to convert. Doing house on more of an ad hoc basis, it's 40 hours per book, where they're writing their own scripts and pushing things through in their own time. With the Migrate service, they were actually sort of prepping their content in the same way using Migrate, but because of what you just saw there, you can see that the conversion is actually instantaneous, and there's sort of minimal, almost zero post-conversion cleanup to do because you're using the rules editor and pushing content through that quickly. So the results were really very, very impressive, and IBM were very pleased with the outcome there. They also put a slide at the DITA conference, which was comparing, another take really, on comparing the traditional outsourced approach with the Stilo self-serve approach, as they called it, and the manual approach. And these sort of checkboxes here, where the traditional vendor scores on, you know, being able to scale and take large quantities quickly, where all writers can be involved in this sort of project work, where there's sort of limited resources available to do the project. And this is where an outsource scores. In the same way, the self-serve system from Stilo, or the service from Stilo, can scale, and we can push content through very quickly, as Sterling Commerce demonstrated. Where we don't actually, we have to provide some training for the rules editor, but actually even that boils down to an hour's training, typically with the documentation teams, before you can go away and start using it. And then we find that we score well and compare well against manual methods, where you can convert 24/7 without delays, where you can do your own tailoring and improve it over time. And so I think essentially we sort of manage to combine the best of both worlds in the approach that we take with Migrate. Now, it's not for everybody to scale up to push through tens of thousands of documents, and for some organizations they might have 2 documents to convert. Another good example, the networks, did some work very recently with them, and this was a quote that Extreme were very happy to give us. They'd been using an outsourced supply in a traditional way. We, in this case, actually took a couple of books and converted it. We operated the Migrate service on their behalf. And it was really interesting, the results they got. So I suppose they would view us as an outsourced provider in this sense. I guess they just couldn't really believe what results they were getting. Typically, they had to give up their files for several weeks, you'll see here, when you're outsourcing. And they couldn't afford to do that. They essentially gave us sample docs to convert, and we did it very, very quickly, and using the sort of methods that you just saw Helen using. Gave them final output, which was good. They then wanted to do a little bit of tweaking, which we did in a couple of days, and they got results that way very, very quickly. That was very gratifying for us. So these are the sort of results that people get when they compare different methods. And what we'd like to do now, I think this is all we have to say or present formally, and what I want to do now is move into a Q&A session before actually wrapping up with a couple of slides at the end. So just let's take some of the questions which Helen's handing me now. So first, what are the money and time costs typically associated with in-house, outsource, or Migrate conversion projects? The time costs. Well, I think actually we just showed that in the IBM stats. If you don't mind, I'll pass on from that. Okay, how does Migrate handle mixed topic types? Where you have tasks embedded in a reference. One for you, Pat and Helen. How does Migrate handle mixed topic types? Where you have task embedded in a reference topic, or perhaps multiple tasks in the same rubber help topic.
Okay, so I mean, that's actually, we went over the rules editor portion of the demo today rather quickly. What we do is we identify, based on styling, where topic boundaries are. In the case of RoboHelp, we usually leverage a CSS setting, but something equivalent to what you'd see in Word with heading 1, heading 2, or, so there's some sort of styling that we can go. In general, the philosophy when using Migrate is that we're mapping from a presentational layout to a semantic layout, which is the DITA markup, and leverage as many visual cues as we can. For RoboHelp, there's CSS to help us identify where these start and end. As for determining their type, sometimes the authors have used a CSS style name that makes it obvious, like a concept heading 2, and that's enough to go on. Sometimes we can look a little bit at the wording. For example, if there's a gerund at the beginning, we can say that's a task. If there's the word about, it's probably a concept. Sometimes we can try and migrate aside, but provide hints to migrate based on what we see inside the topic. For example, if we see task steps, then Migrate can sort of backtrack and figure out that the whole thing around it was a task because it has task steps. That uses the so-called unknown topic notation that we have time to show today. So it depends on the incoming document choose the appropriate mechanism based on the information available in the source.
Oh, thanks, Pat. Next question. Can Migrate find reuse instances and create and reference conres?
That's something we've been exploring, and we've done some work on in development, but we haven't had a chance to actually roll into production, so we're looking forward to the first deployment of that feature. It can depend on the source format. For example, FrameMaker has the notion of text insets and variables, and these can be leveraged for producing conres in DITA. So we have basic mechanisms in place. I'm sure that it'll just need to be adapted a little bit for the particular scenario, and then you'll be able to control it via the rules editor by setting annotations.
Thanks, Pat. Can Migrate convert Word documents?
Yes.
Yeah, do Frame, Word, Rubber Help, InDesign. We can convert from XML to DITA and HTML to do as well. More questions. Must uploaded files be in .mif format or FrameMaker as opposed to .fm or .book?
So for FrameMaker files, we need the MIF format. You can upload a single MIF file, or you can upload a whole book of FrameMaker book, a collection of MIF files.
Okay, does Migrate recognize complete reuse topics within a large set of FrameMaker books instead of creating multiple copies of the topic?
Not if it's copy and pasted. However, if it's a text inset, then yes.
Okay. Does Migrate handle numbered content for engineering documents?
Numbered content?
Yes, I'm not sure.
I wonder if it means numbered sections, which would mean getting the right nesting in the DITA map, which wouldn't be a problem. Numbered lists, I don't think is what's being referred to here.
Okay. I think we don't have any more information and we have no further questions, so given that time's pressing on, I just thank you for that, Pat, and I'll move on to a couple of closing slides.
Maybe I will say that we've dealt with semiconductor companies.
Yeah.
We have been seeing a lot of engineering documents go through.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just trying to bring my desktop back to life at the moment so I can... Okay, good. So remind people who maybe sat on these sessions before that we do run a free document analysis and conversion offer. So if you do want to provide us with a sample document, as I said earlier, it could be Frame, Word, InDesign, Rubber Help, whatever, then do so, up to 20 pages typically. We'll convert to DITA using Migrate, and we'll review the output with you and share observations on the content, and we retain the output for evaluation and testing purposes. It's really quite a valuable, I think, exercise. So if you are interested in looking at conversions, it's probably a good place to start. And finally, to really highlight some upcoming events, we're going to be visiting CMS to North America in April. All of us will be there, so if you do want to pop along to see us, we'd be delighted to be with you. We're going to be also at the STC Summit exhibiting there in Georgia in May as well. So it's another opportunity to talk about your own issues if you wish. And we'll be running a further webinar on April 25th, subject still to be determined. And we'll provide you with registration links for that as well. If I could just finally remind you that we'll be running a poll at the end of today's session and would appreciate any feedback which you could give us. We'd really find it useful. So if you could spend 2 or 3 minutes responding to the questions, that would be great and we'd appreciate it. So if you do want to get in touch with us, you can at migrate@stilo.com, or you can find more information at stilo.com/migrate. And at the end, I would just say thanks for staying with us. We've taken our time. We're out of time. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for your interest, and we hope to talk to you all again soon. Thank you.